That's right. And I'm able to
welcome you to this very important gathering to explore how to combat the import or importation, distribution, and sale of substandard falsified medicines called SFs. This engagement with relevant regulators, policymakers, and law enforcement agencies, stakeholders in Nigeria serves as a means of thinking together and putting in place a position that will represent or guide our collective efforts and strategies to prevent, detect, and respond to SF medicines. The goal here is to ensure that medical products in circulation are of the right quality, they will be safe, and they will be efficacious. The relatively high prevalence of substandard falsified medicines in Africa is a major threat to public health. This is because regulation in the region is limited, because only few national regulatory agencies have attained maturity level 3. And what leads to maturity level 3 includes market control. That is one of the 9 models of maturity level 3. So if only about or less than 10% have attained that status, then you can see that in Africa we have a lot of work to do. And this fact allows for poorly regulated manufacturers to supply their products in Africa, where technologies to detect SF and track and trace are limited. We belong to the member states. It's a global association or group, and we have 55 countries in Africa. All those countries are member states globally, and they agreed almost many decades ago to ensure that products that are coming to their region are of quality. And WHO created a scheme called Certificate of Pharmaceutical Products, COPP. Essentially, what it means is that if we send a certificate of pharmaceutical product out to another country with a particular regulated product, we are assuring the receiving country that it will be of quality. That's not what is happening. Most of our medicines come from Southeast Asia, and they belong to the member states too. We have a scheme where before medicines that we have approved leave that part of the world, we do pre-shipment testing. And that pre-shipment testing is supposed to come with certificate of pharmaceutical product. Meaning, it's supposed to assure us that what we are getting is good. But that's not the case. Because through our scheme, we have been able to stop over 140 products that we approved from coming in. Meaning, you approve NAFDAC, yeah, but we will cheat on you. Because we don't really care about your citizens. We are going to put an end to that. Because we found out that more than 50% of what is called pharmaceutical certificate of pharmaceutical product that come into our country are fake. They fake them. But it takes two to tango. Part of the responsibility is our own people that go to China or India. But we're going to deal with it. And member states, I was at a meeting yesterday evening, we're going to fight for it. It's a member state issue. And Africa is a continent of 55 members. And we're going to fight for it. The menace of substandard falsified products threatens access to safe, efficacious, and affordable medicines, undermining health systems and the achievement of universal health coverage. Some countries are already copying what we are doing, this pre-shipment testing, before it leaves the port. That is one of the ways in which we fight SFs. It is a multifaceted issue globally. There's a book called Bottle of Lies. And the person that was behind the writing of that book is from Southeast Asia too. And in that book, they highlighted the fact that some manufacturers will manufacture for the so-called stringent regulatory countries. And the same line, they will use another line for Africa. We are going to put a stop to it. That is part of why we are very stringent now, more stringent than ever, in terms of our regulatory inspection. No cutting of corners. What you see is what you see. We have blacklisted many companies. We have sanctioned them that you will never imagine how much we sanction them. Because we want people to respect our own people. Trade is a mutual agreement. If that mutual agreement is harming one part of the two-way agreement or arrangement, we will stop it. That is one of the reasons why we started 5+5. So that products that have been being imported forever, which we have capacity to manufacture, we will no longer import them. And that is working now. When we do renewal, we find out whether those products are part of 5+5 scheme, and we remove them from being imported, because local manufacturing is access. Local manufacturing is assurance of quality. If a company is if it has a bad or is suspected to be compromising, in 2 hours we will be there. In 2 hours we will be there. Does that mean we're going to import everything? No. It is that we turn it around. 70% local, 30% import. That is one of the ways to fight substandard falsified medicines. NAFDAC has the mandate to regulate and control the manufacture, importation, exportation, distribution, advertisement, sale, and use of our 7 regulated products: drugs, cosmetics, chemicals, detergents, medical devices, packaged water, and so on. This mandate puts a burden on the agency to lead the fight against SFs in Nigeria and support efforts that we see a reduction in the prevalence of substandard falsified medicines, both locally manufactured and imported. We fight this internationally and locally. A few months ago, we got a wind that a local manufacturer was compromising within 2 hours. We were there and we shut the company down. There was a lot of begging. I said, begging for what? To continue to kill people with your substandard falsified medicine, or unwholesomeness in the area, in the manufacturing facility? Nope. So it is a multifaceted problem. NAFDAC currently is doing its best to fight the issue of substandard falsified medicines. The fight is based on 3 broad thematic areas: prevent, detect, and respond. Prevent, detect, and respond. Regulators and law enforcement agencies like yours play a vital role in ensuring safe, quality, and efficacious medicines reach the end users. That's why I respect all our sister agencies that are present. Without you, we cannot do it. It is a community effort, community of agencies in the country. Therefore, we need to foster complementary partnerships that will seek to identify lapses in the supply chain in order to curb the distribution of SFs. One of the ways in which we are tracking the supply chain is using what is called traceability. It is a technology-driven means of knowing whether a bad product is infiltrating the supply chain. It's called GS1 Track and Trace. NAFDAC is leading that effort in Africa, and we are second in the world. Why? Because we want to mitigate substandard falsified medicines. I enjoin you to sustain your support and collaboration with NAFDAC to ensure that only quality medicines are used in Nigeria. NAFDAC, as the lead regulatory agency in this fight, is seeking the support of all regulators, policymakers, and law enforcement agencies, practitioners, professionals, and well-meaning Nigerians in the import and distribution system of Nigeria to improve our chances of winning the war on substandard falsified medicines. Therefore, I would like to welcome you all to this important gathering. Please feel free to participate actively and contribute so that we can proffer solutions to the challenges identified to ensure the success of this major stakeholder engagement. Thank you very much. It is imported with custom duty. So what a manufacturer can buy for 1 naira last year, Forex, no Forex, naira high, they cannot. So that has slowed down the happy trajectory that we were seeing up to like middle of last year. And my plea is that we look at our own pharmaceutical industry as a life-saving industry to create a special access to Forex. It can be a tripartite arrangement where NAFDAC will assure government, because anybody can become manufacturers overnight, to get this special Forex. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when the government was trying to capacitate local manufacturers in terms of their infrastructure, NAFDAC was brought in. We midwifed it, that these are bona fide companies, and then the rest is left for CBN and the manufacturers to figure out in terms of credit worthiness and whatnot. Mrs. Onunko, to answer your questions, we are doing very well in terms of the result of 5+5. And it's not only 5+5. We also have what is called NAFDAC ceiling. Under that ceiling, we had 9 products. Now we have 34 products under that ceiling that cannot be imported into the country because our manufacturers have the capacity. NAFDAC is getting stronger to guide them to ensure that only quality, safe, and efficacious medicines are being made in Nigeria. Thank you. Predated me. It was there before I joined NAFDAC. But there was a lot of compromise, big loopholes. We use this, or we operate via what is called Clean Report Inspection Analyst Scheme. NAFDAC had agents in China and in India. And those agents are supposed to be the one to handle the testing of the products coming in. So we don't have NAFDAC officers in India or China. However, we were not in control of which lab they are using. What is the capacity of the lab? So we generated policies or documentation in terms of what we expect to see in a typical laboratory. So 2019, I went with about 8 officers to India and to China. That travel changed everything. We dropped some CRI agents that were compromising. We went through each lab. We sent to them, these are the things we expected in your lab. So our staff scattered across India and then gathered in Shanghai to meet the CRIA agents. In that process, we also added, I think, 1 or 2 CRI agents to the list because we removed 1 or 2 too. But like I said, trade is mutual. I read them the Riot Act. That it's good to trade, but it's not by force. You want to trade with us? Make sure you bring quality products. You don't, you will be the one to lose. And that was what changed things around. Because there were some labs that said they were testing our product before my time that didn't even have equipment. But they would say, yeah, they have tested. We were also rating the laboratories to see which ones we're going to continue with, which ones we're not going to continue with. But most of them are keeping to the terms of our agreement. They signed an agreement which we could tear anytime they violate our policies. That is the first part of the question. The second part is we are focusing on importation. What of local? I mentioned it during my talk that it is easier to control local. In fact, local probably gets more pressure from us than the importers or foreign manufacturers, because we can get there within 2 hours or overnight. If I get a report late in the evening, I will call the director of drug evaluation and research. You're going to be here by 10 o'clock in the morning with your staff. They will. And we have done that several times. Because it's not just the importers that have bad intent. Few of our manufacturers, also local manufacturers, also have bad intent. Greed, cutting corners. You know, from after having lived in the US for decades, I know why there is more sanity there for pharmaceutical manufacturing. If your company is worth $200 million and you violate FDA rule, they will just fine you $210 million. That is bye-bye. Yes. So, if it doesn't hurt the pocket, if there is no deterrent, and that's why I'm happy that the regulators are here. If there's no deterrent, they will continue to do it. And we have done many sanctions rather, that are hurting pockets. Because you love a child. If a child keeps misbehaving, let the child learn. So tough love. I love our manufacturers, I love local manufacturing and whatnot, but if you cross the threshold, you will be heavily sanctioned, closed. We have closed few companies permanently. We have shut down several companies until they correct whatever we found out that are not good. So I hope that answers the questions. Local manufacturing is access. Local manufacturing is access to quality medicines, safe, efficacious medicines. Thank you very much. Bring it back. Somebody actually sent me something yesterday, one of our officers, that there is a growth increase in the publication of trash in the world. I will use the word trash. Unscientific, pedantic, shameful. That was what was published about paracetamol. At a point, I almost couldn't read through one paragraph without finding a grossly unscientific principles or assertions or whatever. As a regulator, we do survey. When we call something survey, it's not questionnaire. We're actually going around the country collecting samples from formal and informal markets. Formal is pharmacies, hospital pharmacies, community. Informal is people selling medicines in the corner stores and whatnot, on the street. Just to see what is the prevalence. We do that annually. I looked at that document. I said, what? First of all, it's a disgrace to Nigeria. I'm sorry to say. It is a disgrace that a journal will want to publish that. I taught pharmaceutical manufacturing drug evaluation for about 27 years. The rest is like administrative and so on. And I actually sent it to one of my ex-students that is now a pharmaceutical scientist. I couldn't send it to the ones that are not Nigerians or Africans. I sent it to one that is a Ghanaian. And he called me and said, Dr. A, what is this? What is this? I didn't know whether to cry for us or to be angry. It is between the two. But I'm a scientist. I will have to prove that that publication is wrong, despite the fact that almost every line in it is shameful, it's unscientific. So we went round to gather paracetamol from different sources. We had 13 types. And to test a product, I don't know whether in that journal or publication, they said they used 2 tablets. But 2 tablets? And then they put WHO logo at the back to deceive 215 people, million people. I said, no way. WHO will never, never, never be responsible for this. So it is a way of deceiving the masses. It is a way of somebody that maybe, I don't know, promotion or whatever, want to put something out. I call it trash. And we found out that there is nothing wrong with our paracetamol. It is the simplest of our medicines. BP standards. BP standard is from Nigeria, doesn't change from with, you know, if you go to Ghana. British Pharmacopoeia Compendium. They use what they are not supposed to use. They, you know, but in any case, I hope I answer your questions. We don't have any problem with our paracetamol. In fact, the test that we did in the lab is one of the simplest of our tests, least complicated, because that's just straightforward. I hope I answered that question. Thank you very much. I challenged them. I said, we cannot even make lactose. We have corn, we have whatever, potato, we have the... And they responded. It's not easy. Our local manufacturers, to me, they are patriots. They do all these things through thick and thin. So we have EMZO that has, I think the last time I went to Shagamu area, I think they have about 75% completion of a local, of the building or the setup, yes, for making lumefantrine, artemether, lumefantrine, sulfadoxine, and pyrimethamine, anti-malarials. Another consortium of about 4 or 5 companies, what I call FITSIN consortium, are also planning to manufacture antibiotics, antihypertensives, things like that. So our local manufacturers are responding. But if we think the review of finished products is hard, the review or assessment of active pharmaceutical ingredients, which we call API, is harder. It is raw science. So what we did was to start increasing the capacity of our local manufacturers. So in October last year, we had a meeting, a workshop at Marriott Ikeja. I think there were about 150, 140 participants. It is an international meeting. The best of the best were invited. About 5 or 6 were there physically, maybe equal number, also virtually. From China, from Europe, from US, to start building the competence in terms of active pharmaceutical ingredients and non-active pharmaceutical ingredients, what we call excipients. It was a very successful meeting, and it is not just NAFDAC, because we also have to train ourselves, because we have not been reviewing active pharmaceutical ingredients in form of submission and whatnot, and approval. So we had NAFDAC staff, regulatory officers, we had local manufacturers. We also had academia, because we were thinking 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. So we invited about 12 universities, professors and students to start building their capacity Because what we lack in Africa the most is capacity. It's intellectual capacity, competence. Because you cannot give what you don't have. There is no abracadabra. So that meeting is just the beginning, that workshop. We are having another one this year.
In the absence of no other question.